There is a pattern hiding in plain sight, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. More intelligent someone is, the more distant they often become from social life. Fewer friends, fewer gatherings, less interest in noise, gossip, and endless conversation. Society quickly labels this as arrogance, social failure, or emotional weakness. But Schopenhauer saw something far more uncomfortable beneath the surface. In this video, we are going to uncover why some of the most intelligent people slowly detach from social life. Using Schopenhauer's brutally honest philosophy, we'll expose why crowds exhaust the mind of the smart, why small talk feels hollow, and why solitude begins to feel necessary rather than sad. Stay with me till the end of this video, because by the final minutes, you may realize that what you once called loneliness is actually a sign that your mind has outgrown the noise around it. Schopenhauer believed that most people don't seek connection, they seek distraction. Social life, for the average person, is not about understanding one another, but about escaping silence. Noise becomes a shield. Laughter becomes camouflage. Conversation becomes a way to avoid being alone with one's own thoughts. For a deeply thinking person, this creates friction. Social environments are built on repetition, emotional shortcuts, and unspoken rules. The intelligent mind doesn't move like that. It questions, it observes, it dissects. And when forced into shallow social settings, it feels like being surrounded by people speaking a language you technically understand, but can no longer feel. This is why intelligent people often leave gatherings early. Not because they hate people, but because they see too much. They notice the performative smiles, the recycled opinions, the subtle competition for status and validation. They hear what is being said, and more importantly, what is being avoided. Schopenhauer argued that intelligence brings awareness, and awareness brings distance. Once you clearly see human motives, ego, fear, envy, approval-seeking, social life stops feeling nourishing. It begins to feel draining. You are no longer participating, you are observing. At first, this distance is unintentional. You still show up, you still try. But over time, something shifts. Conversations feel predictable, reactions feel rehearsed, and the mind quietly asks a dangerous question. Why am I here? Most people never reach this point. They remain comfortable inside the noise. But if you've felt this growing detachment your whole life, if silence restores you more than company, it isn't a flaw, it's the beginning of understanding. And once that understanding takes hold, there is no going back. Early in his life, Arthur Schopenhauer tried to participate in society like everyone else. He moved through academic circles, attended intellectual salons, and even lectured at the University of Berlin. But something quickly became clear to him. The social world of thinkers was not driven by truth. It was driven by ego, popularity, and performance. When he moved to Berlin, Schopenhauer entered the academic world with that assumption. He lectured, published, and tried to engage with other thinkers of his time. He genuinely believed that people who claimed to love philosophy wanted truth, even when it was uncomfortable. Then he encountered Hegel. Hegel was the most celebrated philosopher in Germany at that time. His lectures were packed. Students admired him, quoted him, and followed him closely. But when Schopenhauer listened, he felt something was wrong. The ideas were complex, abstract, and often unclear. To Schopenhauer, it sounded like philosophy buried under authority rather than guided by truth. This disturbed him deeply. Schopenhauer realized that people weren't drawn to Hegel because they understood him. They were drawn to him because he represented status. Attending his lectures meant belonging to something respected. Being associated with him meant social approval. So Schopenhauer did something revealing. He scheduled his own lectures at the exact same time. It wasn't arrogance. It was a test. He wanted to see whether people would choose clear thinking over institutional prestige. whether they wanted understanding or recognition. The result was painful. Hegel's lecture halls were full. Schopenhauer's were nearly empty. That moment changed him. It confirmed something Schopenhauer had hoped wasn't true. Most people don't seek truth. They seek belonging. They don't want clarity if clarity threatens comfort. They prefer ideas that impress over ideas that illuminate. This wasn't just an academic disappointment. It reshaped how Schopenhauer saw social life itself. He began to notice the same pattern everywhere. In gatherings, in conversations, in friendships, people repeating accepted opinions, avoiding uncomfortable truths, performing identities rather than questioning them. Social life started to feel like theater, so he withdrew, not in anger, but in understanding. He stopped trying to explain himself to crowds that weren't listening. He chose solitude because it allowed him to think without shrinking his ideas to be accepted. Schopenhauer realized something most people never do. Being alone is often the price of seeing clearly. And once you accept that price, belonging loses its power over you. That realization leads directly to the next truth: why emotional depth makes social life even harder to endure. Schopenhauer believed that intelligence does not merely sharpen the mind, it deepens emotion. This is where the real divide begins. Highly intelligent people don't just think more, they feel more intensely. They register subtleties others overlook. A tone shift, a forced smile, a contradiction between words and intention. And because they perceive more, they absorb more. In social environments, this becomes overwhelming. Where others experience stimulation, the intelligent person experiences saturation. Every interaction carries emotional weight. Every conversation leaves residue. And over time, this constant exposure begins to exhaust the nervous system. Schopenhauer argued that most people regulate emotions externally. They release it through talking, laughing, venting, and constant interaction. Silence frightens them because it offers no escape from unresolved feelings. But intelligent individuals regulate emotion internally. They reflect, they analyze, they process in silence. And this makes solitude not just preferable, but necessary. This is why loud rooms drain them, why meaningless conversations irritate them, why forced enthusiasm feels invasive. It's not arrogance, it's sensory overload of the psyche. Schopenhauer believed that once a person becomes deeply aware of suffering, their own and others, trivial pleasures lose their charm. Social rituals begin to feel like distractions from truths that cannot be ignored. Small talk feels dishonest when you are carrying unspoken awareness of mortality, impermanence, and human fragility. And this awareness creates isolation. Not because the intelligent person rejects others, but because others unknowingly reject depth. They prefer comfort over truth, lightness over honesty. And so the emotionally deep individual learns to retreat, not out of fear, but out of self-preservation. Solitude becomes a sanctuary where emotion can settle instead of being constantly stirred, where thoughts can unfold without interruption, where the self doesn't need to be edited for acceptance. Schopenhauer once implied that people with shallow inner lives seek constant company, while those with rich inner worlds guard their solitude carefully. Not because they are superior, but because they have more to protect. And once solitude reveals its calming power, returning to noise feels like regression. You begin to understand that not every connection is nourishing. Not every gathering is meaningful. Not every voice deserves access to your inner world. This realization is quiet, but irreversible. And from here, a dangerous thought begins to form. What if solitude isn't the problem? What if it's the solution? That question changes everything. Schopenhauer never described solitude as a weakness. He described it as a form of strength. He believed that society quietly trains people to fear being alone. From an early age, constant interaction is framed as healthy, normal, even virtuous. Silence is treated as suspicious. withdrawal as failure. But Schopenhauer saw this conditioning for what it was, a way to keep people externally focused and internally unaware. Solitude does the opposite. When you're alone, there is no audience to perform for, no approval to chase, no role to maintain, and without those distractions, the mind becomes sharper, more honest, more difficult to deceive. This is why solitude feels threatening to society. A person who is comfortable alone is harder to manipulate. They are less dependent on validation, less reactive to opinion, less eager to conform. Schopenhauer believed that most people need others constantly because they cannot tolerate their own thoughts. Silence forces confrontation with unresolved fears, regrets, and emptiness. Social life becomes an escape, not a connection. But the intelligent person learns something radical. Silence is not emptiness. It is space. Space to observe patterns. Space to question inherited beliefs. Space to see human behavior without emotional distortion. This is where solitude becomes power. You begin to notice how much of social life is driven by comparison. Who is ahead? Who is admired? Who is losing? Once you step back, those games lose their grip. You stop measuring yourself against crowds that don't share your values. Schopenhauer warned that constant social immersion dulls the mind. It rewards agreement over understanding, speed over depth, reaction over reflection. Solitude restores what society erodes. This is why intelligent people often appear distant. Their withdrawal isn't coldness, it's selectivity. They are choosing fewer voices so they can hear their own more clearly. And with that clarity comes an unsettling freedom. You stop needing to explain yourself. You stop fearing being misunderstood. You stop chasing connection for its own sake. You realize that peace is not found in numbers, but in alignment. And once you taste that alignment, returning to constant social noise feels like confinement. Not because people are bad, but because silence has taught you something crowds never could. And this prepares you for the final truth Schopenhauer understood. There is always a price for clarity. Schopenhauer never romanticized solitude. He was honest about its cost. When you step away from social noise, you lose more than distraction. You lose familiarity. You lose easy belonging. You begin to notice that many connections were never built on understanding, only proximity, habit, or convenience. And that realization can sting. You may feel misunderstood. You may feel invisible. You may realize that few people are willing to meet you at depth, not because they are cruel, but because depth demands effort, honesty, and discomfort. Schopenhauer believed that every meaningful life requires a certain degree of isolation, not total withdrawal, but separation from what dulls the mind, from what pulls you away from yourself. The intelligent person doesn't abandon social life completely. They refine it. They choose fewer people, slower conversations, longer silences, and they stop apologizing for needing space. This is the quiet maturity few talk about. You stop confusing noise with connection. You stop mistaking presence for intimacy. You stop forcing yourself into rooms where your soul feels compressed. Solitude teaches you something crowds never will. Who you are when no one is watching. What you believe when no one is reacting. What matters when no one is applauding. And once you discover that, you become harder to impress, but easier to satisfy. Schopenhauer understood that the world will always favor the loud, the busy, the agreeable. But clarity belongs to those willing to stand apart long enough to see clearly. So if you felt drawn away from crowds, if silence feels restorative instead of frightening, if being alone feels more honest than being surrounded, you're not broken, you're not failing, you're waking up. And if this perspective resonates with you, if these ideas make you feel seen rather than entertained, consider subscribing. Not for noise, but for depth, because some truths aren't meant to be rushed. They're meant to be understood.